What I do like about Instagram is it appeals to such a wide range of audiences. So TikTok is still a little bit more on the younger side of things. Facebook has definitely aged a lot up, but Instagram's still in the middle. So you still have 13, 14-year-olds that are watching stuff on Instagram. And then you've got people in their 50s, 60s, 70s on Instagram. What I do like about Instagram is you can find your audience. Whatever you're into, you can usually find your audience on Instagram.
And today I'm joined with a special guest, Corey Walker. Hi, Corey. How are you today? We're so excited to have you on the podcast.
Oh, I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on.
So, for anybody who's watching that doesn't know about you, who would like to get to know who you are, your journey with influencing, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Give a quick intro.
Sure. Well, my name's Corey Walker, and I am the co-author of Instagram for Dummies and Instagram for Business for Dummies. And we've had several editions come out over the years. I'm actually working on the third edition of Instagram for Business for Dummies right now. So yeah, I love it when Instagram keeps changing things as I'm writing the books. But besides being an author, I'm also a social media agency owner in El Dorado Hills, California.
Nice. So, obviously, Instagram is like your bread and butter, right? That's kind of like where you sort of have more expertise. Um, I think in the latter years, I would say maybe since about 2020, um, TikTok has sort of come in and taken over the world, right? Especially with social media. And I feel like a lot of other sites have sort of tried to emulate the same impact that TikTok has had, Instagram being one of them, with Instagram Reels, and then we have YouTube Shorts. So, my question to you is how did you decide to keep your focus on Instagram when all of this started happening? Or how did that affect you and your sort of teaching of how Instagram is used? Because I do think that it has affected the changes of this platform so much.
Yeah, well, I mean, one thing Instagram is great about is kind of stealing what is working on other platforms well. So, it got stories from Snapchat and then it developed Reels to combat TikTok. So, yeah, I think Instagram still has a lot of staying power. So, in writing the books, I'm committed to Instagram, but what I do like about Instagram is it appeals to such a wide range of audiences. So, TikTok is still a little bit more on the younger side of things.
Yeah.
Facebook has definitely aged a lot up, but Instagram's still in the middle. So you still have, 13, 14-year-olds that are watching stuff on Instagram. And then you've got people in their 50s, 60s, 70s on Instagram. So what I do like about Instagram is you can find your audience. Whatever you're into, you can usually find your audience on Instagram. So, and they offer just so many different ways to reach people that if your audience is more of like TikToky, then you can, throw a lot of reels out there. If they're the type that really want more, carousels and posts that they can absorb and read, then it's got that as well. So it helps a lot of different areas.
Yeah, it's definitely more versatile than TikTok in that sense. And what you said is true. Like I think a lot of people are on Instagram regardless of their age, whereas on other platforms, like you said, on Facebook, we have an older crowd, and on TikTok, you have a much younger crowd, which is important. I think for a lot of our listeners and our viewers, a big difficulty is how to have a social media presence and where to even sort of begin. I've seen a lot of people who are like, okay, well, I'm really good at my business, but I don't have, any social media skills, or I am not on social media myself, or I'm not like, influencer savvy. And I don't know how to do any of this kind of, like, newer, sort of more digital kind of marketing, trends that are coming up, and I think a lot of the question that a lot of people have is, "What do I do? Like, where do I even start to have an online presence? What platform do I choose?" And I usually always think Instagram is the one that you should go to because it is, like you said, the most versatile one and the default one. Like, if I'm following a business, I'm always gonna go to their Instagram first.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm the same way, and it really depends on what audience you're trying to reach. So, I am, Instagram first, but then I am with LinkedIn as a very close second because there's a lot of, your higher end decision makers are on LinkedIn. So it really depends on who you're trying to reach. If you're a soda brand that's trying to reach you know, say people that work out and it's like a special, more natural soda brand like Poppy or something. They might want to go towards Instagram and TikTok. Whereas somebody I have realtor clients and lawyers and things like that, and they'll do some on Instagram, but then they'll be heavier on LinkedIn. So you really just have to take the pulse of where your audience is and then structure your social media around that.
So for small businesses, we have a lot of small businesses who listen, like small business owners who listen to us. Do you think that their online presence is best on social media, or do you think it should be sort of focused on different areas? Or you think it's more depending on what products they have?
Yeah, I mean, it marketing kind of 101 goes back to find your audience. Where are they? What do they like to consume? So you really have to look at, okay, where am I getting my leads mostly from now? And is it working well? So some people, social media might be out there for them as more of an awareness tool because it's kind of like like you said, most people, they're gonna check out what their presence is either on Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn. So some I have some small business clients that they're not necessarily trying to get their big leads from Instagram, but they know that they have to have a presence out there. So really it just you have to take a good look at who the person is and how they like to consume their media. I mean, there's still some people that you might reach the best way through in person. Like if you're a local business, you might do your best leads going to the Chamber of Commerce luncheon every week. So yeah, you really have to weigh how you're getting those leads and what's most effective and lean into that.
Yeah, definitely. And it's a journey, I think, especially for people who are on the older side that are not familiar with social media. I think as a younger person, you're a little bit more, um you don't have to be an expert, but we're a little bit more familiar with
Yeah, well, it's part of you just grew up with it, so, it's more of a natural thing, whereas people, like when I was a teenager, there wasn't social media, so it's something I definitely had to learn as an adult, and so I wasn't texting my friends and posting stuff on Facebook when I was, 12.
which is crazy because I remember, like, my youth very plagued by not plagued, but, like, I remember having social media from a very young age, present in my life, and I remember my parents sort of being, like, a little bit nervous about letting me have an email address when I was, like, 9 because they were like, "Oh god, no." And, sort of the internet always being a thing, and when I hear my mom talk about how she grew up without internet for, like, years of her life, and I'm like, "How did you do your homework? How did you go to school? How did you talk t" like, I can't picture myself going outside without a cell phone and not be able to talk to people while
You're just out in the wild.
yes, like, what if something happens, what do you do? Like, to me, it's insane because I'm so used to just being able to, you grab your phone, you text your friend, and you're like, "I'm right here," like,
Yeah.
I can see jokes about how, like, Gen Z, they don't knock doors, they call their friends, and, like, my mom was even telling me the other day that it's weird for her that nowadays you have to text someone, "Hey, can I call you?" before you actually call them.
Right.
Because, for me, it's such a normal thing. So when you put that in the perspective of social media and, having to use that for business purposes, when it's really hard for someone to figure it out on just like a normal daily day-to-day basis, and there's a lot of like unwritten rules and patterns and things that you have to follow, it really is crazy, and I think there's a lot of changes to this platform that are happening all the time.
Oh,
So, you mentioned that, when you were writing your book, you always get like, "Oh my gosh, I just finished writing something and they already changed anything." How do you manage to keep up with all of these changes that are very unpredictable, and how do you even teach them to someone that doesn't understand anything?
yeah. So, well, I mean, I have a lot of clients that I work with on a day-to-day basis, so I'm in the app constantly. So a lot of times, I just see them. I'm like, "Oh, okay, here's something new." And then I do read a lot of other people's blogs and I go to webinars and I watch YouTube videos but a lot of it's just I'm in the app, I'm doing it and I have a marketing background. So I'm always like, "Okay, so here's this new thing. How can we use this? How can we jump on this new feature?" Because a lot of times with Instagram and really any social media platform, when they roll out something new, they really push it in their algorithm. So, for instance, when Reels came out, I mean, I posted one reel and it was just this like stupid thing of my cat. And within, I think it was 2 minutes, I already had 1,700 views on this like cat video because they were pushing it and not a lot of people were using it yet because they didn't even know what it was. So, so yeah, I a lot of it is just being in the app and seeing these things as they happen. And one of the things that I do on my account is kind of report on new updates and things like that. So, um, yeah, I just have to keep on top of it and then see, well, is this something that my clients could use, or is this just more weird fluff that Adam Azari decided to put out?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I remember, like, carousel posts also got really popular for a while, and, like, I remember companies having all of these carousel posts for, like, products that they were selling, and then they sort of got phased out. I mean, people still do it, but I think right now, like, Instagram Reels is, like, all the rage. Uh, that's kind of where I see most traction.
Yeah.
With Instagram Reels, what do you think is the difference between TikTok and, like, making a TikTok and an Instagram Reel? And I obviously know that a lot of people have recycled TikToks and posted them to Instagram Reels or the other way around, like, they'll post a reel on TikTok, but I've noticed that it's not, like, perfect like an exact replica. There are TikToks that I've seen people they not posting on Instagram Reels, and Instagram Reels that people don't post on their TikToks even though they have both platforms.
Yeah. So, a few things. I think TikTok is still a little bit edgier and people throw things out there. Now, mind you, what I see on my Instagram is a lot of other social media marketers. So, if I stick to that, I'm just missing a lot of the stuff. Um, so yeah, so I feel like Instagram is slightly tamer than TikTok, but I could be wrong in that. I'm not on TikTok quite as nearly as much as I am on Instagram. And on Instagram, I am following other social media marketers, where on TikTok, I'm more just like seeing what pops up on my For You page, which can be like all sorts of crazy stuff. So, the other thing I would say, because you mentioned the repurposing part, one thing that Instagram has been very clear about is that they do not want to see the TikTok logo on their platform.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so that's a warning to people, as if they are doing a direct share and that TikTok logo is on there, and Instagram happens to catch it in their bots or whatever, they're gonna downgrade that piece of content. So, if you are planning on repurposing, it's better to say, create your video in a third party thing like CapCut and then post it on both. Um,
Whereas you just download it when it's posted and then reposting it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, as long as you don't have that logo. Now, I don't know if TikTok cares if you have the Instagram logo on theirs or not. I think it just looks better without it, frankly, like,
Yeah, I'd l that's
regardless. Like, it just looks weird when you have it just looks messy. It's just one more thing on the screen, so I don't like it, um, but yeah, going back to your first part, I feel like TikTok is a little bit more, trendy, and Instagram will pick up on those trends, but it 2 or 3 weeks later. So, what I usually tell people is if you wanna be first to market on trends on Instagram, go over to TikTok, pick out some stuff there that's, like, really trending, and bring it over to Instagram, and you'll be one of the first people to do that. So
yeah, yeah, I definitely think that. I've noticed that TikTok is a lot more casual, so I've seen that for repurposing a lot of the more curated content since tends to be repurposed towards Instagram, whereas, like, that random TikTok that people will film when they just woke up about their morning coffee stays on TikTok.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
A little more rough and edited, although the whole, lo-fi content is becoming more popular everywhere, so
yeah, that is true. I think just in general, trends are very I think aesthetics have become really important in marketing lately because we do see a lot of people, sort of just normal people, having more awareness of color theory and
oh,
stuff like how to make your Instagram feed really pretty, what kinda angles to take, photography, things along those lines. Whereas, like, I think when Instagram started in, like, 2012, you would take a picture of your salad and be like, "Ooh, hashtag lunch."
yeah.
Yeah.
Although we have moved through so there was yeah, the beginning, people were taking random photos of their lunch, but then we moved into the, like, super, super aesthetic where you just had pictures of flowers, and it was all the exact same filter and all of that, and I think we have moved away from that, which I'm glad because that was painstaking trying to keep up and make everything look perfect. So
Did pictures, like, I remember, like, the saturation was huge.
yeah, yeah, and you would just you would assume, "Oh, people are gonna come to my profile, and so I have to have, this whole display," and really, people don't go to your profile as much, they mostly spend time in the feed, so I think we're kind of the pendulum is swinging back towards the whatever I ate today kind of thing. It's not quite that bad, but it's definitely not quite as, um, perfectly aesthetic as it was, 8 or 9 years ago, which I'm thankful for.
I think it's definitely a lot more casual, but I feel like it's sort of, more calculated casual, whereas, like, or it was definitely just random.
True.
I think now people are even if it's just a casual post, there's a plan behind it. There's like an angle that you're showing and a thought process that is a lot more aware than when it just had started. And I think it also has opened a new way for trends of like I've noticed businesses becoming a little bit more edgy. Like, they're just edgier in general with their marketing, which is
Right.
very new. Especially, like, bigger companies who will post just, like, a bunch of memes and jokes, and they'll have some really edgy social media manager commenting on things and interacting with everybody, and it
Like
may
Wendy's. Have you been on Wendy's?
like, their Twitter. Yeah, no, Wendy's Twitter is insane, or, like, Duolingo and, like, all of these platforms that are just very sometimes even rude to people. And it's sort of gotten it's entertaining, right? Um, and I think, like, I've seen a lot of people sort of trying to dabble in that kind of new wave of marketing. Do you think that it's something that's worth trying out, or if it's something that's kind of like just a passing trend that maybe people should ignore?
Yeah, I mean, again, I always go back to audience. So it depends who your audience is and if they like that kind of content or if they'd be offended by that kind of content. So, a lot of these like Wendy's, they can get away with it. They're a fast food company, and I think most of their audience is pretty mainstream, pretty, middle of the road, people that appreciate that kind of humor.
Yes.
Um, but if you are a small business that's like a funeral home, that it might not be the best choice to be edgy and, so you have to see if it's appropriate for, what your product or service is and who's going to be consuming it. But yeah, I mean, I think if you think the audience would be open to it, just you could dabble it in and see how they react to it.
Yeah, I think, like, definitely what your audience would respond to is important, like you had mentioned earlier. But because I have seen a lot of companies and businesses sort of trying to dabble into this trend or another trend or, just fall into whatever is cool at the moment or whatever is interesting to people. But I think it doesn't give a lot of longevity because you're just following someone else's trend. Um, how do you actually recommend for someone or a business or anybody who wants to have more of a presence online that doesn't really depend on following trends and, specific sort of things that are happening online?
Yeah, so I think developing a good base of evergreen content is great because you can always repurpose it. And so and what I mean for evergreen, if people are watching and they don't know what the heck I'm talking about evergreen, but evergreen content is just content that you could post it today, you could post it a year from now and it would still apply and it's not based on trends, it's not based on the holidays. It's just good information. So, I usually have people start with content pillars. And so they might say, okay, these are the top, 5 things that my business is about and that I want to talk about. And then we talk about, okay, what kind of content can we create that goes under those buckets? So I think creating strong evergreen content that talks to what your customers' pains are and how your service or product helps fix that. If you can put together some FAQs that people might have that you get and then put that into some of your content, I think that's always helpful. And then, like I said, you could sprinkle in a trend, but I think for the most part, if you're doing all trends all the time, first of all, it's exhausting because you're just always chasing trends and you might miss the mark on what your true service or product is because you're focusing on the trend and so people are laughing because it's part of the trend and they're just thinking about the trend. They're not thinking about what your business really is. So that's why I'm kind of more like, yeah, get that concrete evergreen content going and then throw in some more fun stuff.
Yeah, I definitely think that, um, while social media presence is important for businesses, I think having a goal in mind is more important. Um, I also think that we see a lot of small business owners or other kind of, just like mid-level, like startups or anything like that, have a very present social media, but I wonder if it's sort of going anywhere aside from giving you visibility because, it's like, yeah, you're having a fun audience, you're trendy, you're cool, but is this actually turning into leads, into clients, into sales? Like, are people actually interested in your product or are they just laughing at your meme?
Right. Right. And I think it depends on what it is. Like some of the bigger brands, a soda brand, something like that, they can get away with that because it's just it's about awareness, about and everybody knows, who Coke, Pepsi, all of that. So it's more just reminding you one more time, like, oh yeah, we're fun, come buy us. But for the smaller ones, for your average small business owner, you have to have a good call to action on your posts, and not necessarily every single post, but you have to tell your audience what you want them to do next, and then that will develop hopefully into a lead um, instead of just awareness.
Yeah, well, obviously bigger brands are already, they've sort of reached a marketing peak, right? They just need awareness because I feel like if I see a funny tweet by Wendy's, it makes me just crave, like, a burger from them, and I've already had Wendy's enough times to know their menu. I don't need to
Right.
be
Yeah, you don't need to hear the pain points of Wendy's.
yeah, I will need Wendy's to tell me, like, "Come get our 4.99 burger. We have this combo." Like,
Yeah,
"Wash," right? Yeah, but, like, from a small business who is selling, homemade burgers, I wanna know, "Okay, what's your hamburger about? Let me know so that I can go where can I purchase it?" Like, you wanna know more about the product because obviously a small business doesn't have that space to just do brand awareness.
exactly.
Yeah. So obviously you've been helping people with Instagram growth. Do you ever suggest for them to use other platforms or do you always sort of just tell them to focus on Instagram? If you do suggest other platforms, do you help them with that or is it your main primary focus only Instagram?
No, absolutely. I help people with all sorts of different things. So, yeah, Instagram, but I have clients that I don't have them on Instagram because it's not necessarily the right space for them. I have a commercial real estate client and she's just on LinkedIn and LinkedIn gets her leads. It's where her people are that are the decision makers. We were going to try Instagram and then we kind of backed off and we're like, I don't know that this is gonna behave the way you want it to. So let's just go all in on LinkedIn. So yeah, I help people with Facebook, with Instagram, with LinkedIn, with X. I do a little bit on Twitter. I don't think I have any clients on Twitter right now. I used to have a restaurant client on there. But they're not on there right now. But I have no opposition to TikTok. It's just a lot of my clients are a little bit older, and so the audience that they're trying to reach just really isn't there. So that's the only reason.
Yeah, obviously it depends on where your audience is and TikTok is like we said very youthful.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much for also, I think the purchase value that you can get from TikTok is very low because we have a very big young audience there, so, you know.
So they're poor.
Yeah, I think so, 'cause, like, the purchasing power of the people on TikTok is very low because you have a lot of teenagers and kids and, they might be really into this product, but
Yeah.
they're not.
Although they're not paying rent yet. They're not paying for probably I have more money than the rest of us right now.
Well, that is true, they still don't have any responsibilities, but I think of myself when I was, like, 16 and I would see ads for this new makeup brand, and I would just have to beg my mom to buy it for me, and she would be like, "No," because we have other things that we have to pay.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So Corey, it's been great having you. For anybody that would want to work with you on furthering their business on Instagram or any other platform, or for anybody who would want to read your books, check out your own Instagram, the floor is yours to tell them about it, where they can go in and find you so that anybody that's pretty that wants to work with you can go and see you.
Yeah, sure. So, well, my Instagram handle is right in front of me on the screen. So it's at Corey C. Walker. And I post, I mean, pretty much daily. Sometimes I skip the weekends, but so I'm out there all the time posting Instagram updates and tips and all that kind of stuff. So if you're interested just in learning more about Instagram in general, follow me there. You can also go to my website, which is themarketingspecialist.com. And there you can find out more about my services, about, social media management, things like that. And then Instagram for Dummies and Instagram for Business for Dummies are both on Amazon. So you can just search them there.
Okay, perfect. I will be adding all of those links so that our audience can go in and check them out. And anybody that needs your help can go in and find you. It's been great having you, Corey. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
And for everybody watching, we'll see you on the next episode. Have a great day, everyone.